Hello everyone, my name is Kareem Musad and I'm the managing partner at Kempire Consulting. I have 23 years of hands-on experience in building and helping businesses achieve their potential, and I've lived and worked in 6 countries in the last 15 years and also managed many organizations in many different industries, which allowed me to have a full-rounded experience of knowing what it takes to build a business and make it successful. In this video, we're taking you through a case study in the tech industry. This is a client that we worked with back in San Francisco in 2019, based in Silicon Valley, California. And as you know, the tech industry has been booming for decades, and it's not slowing down by any means. Competition is very fierce, and you have to make sure that you're not only in the game, but also ahead of the game all the time. The client's main issue was churn, where at least 10% of the customer base were canceling every single month. While the sales were doing good, the post-sales was not. So this is pretty much what we came for. So to give you a little bit of details about the challenge here is that the model that the company was working with is a sales team that were both inside sales and field. The sales department was owning the sales transaction from start to finish, then passing it on to the customer support team, which includes the customer service, complaints management, repair center, and customer retention. The main challenge is that while the sales were booming, the post-sale process was a real challenge. Cancellations were on the rise for 6 months straight. Kempire came in and applied a Six Sigma approach and a plan that will take 8 weeks to show improvements and better results. The objective is to reduce that cancel rate by 50%. So one of the things we did is that we came and identified a few gaps in different categories in process, people, and in technology. And by doing that audit, we learned a lot about the business, which allowed us to come in and make very impactful solutions. For example, when we looked at the process, we learned that there are no customer segmentations taking place. So whether you're a customer that signed up 2 days ago or a customer that has been with the company for 5 years, you are both going through the same customer journey, which doesn't make a lot of sense because the needs for those customers are pretty different. So there were no customer segmentations based on scale, type, or even tenure, which is something that we propose to change immediately. Also, looking at the sales process, it was not audited in a way that makes the sales team accountable. So there was lack of objective communication between the sales and the support teams, with no audit on the sales process if it's being followed thoroughly or not. So when we sat down with the support team, one of the main things that they told us is that they face a lot of issues in customers' expectations after they sign up, because the sales team have told them something in which that the company itself cannot do in the way the salesperson explained. So that creates a constant inconsistency and challenge for the sales support, and it also directly impacts the cancellation rate, because customer will say, you know what, this is not what I signed up for, and they will end up canceling. We also realized that there's a lot of customer complaints from porting issues. So when you change your number and when you change your company and you want to take your business number from your previous company to this client of ours, there's a porting process that is involved. And what we learned is that a lot of issues and a lot of complaints are coming with either very delayed porting or porting even not being done at all, which we had to go back to the engineering team and understand why is this an issue. Last but not least on the process is that we realized that the customer support team are not following the ticketing system. So you don't have any logs, or at least thorough logs, for the customers that are calling in and having issues. So it was inconsistent. Some people were leaving some notes, some people weren't. There was no specific sort of template or way to leave notes. There was a lot of gap, which created a lot of issues for the customers and obviously impacted the first contact resolution. On the people side, we learned a few things, but the main things is that we learned that the culture of the company didn't support a lot of retention effort. So the customer service representatives were not educated on the importance of customer retention, nor was it even a KPI for them. So whether you do it or not, you don't get any sort of risk and reward, and it wasn't sort of something that was promoted consistently in the support team. So one of the very first things we came in is obviously we did a lot of educational training and orientation on the importance of customer retention. But not only that, we started applying key performance indicators on the customer support team to measure and assess how much retention effort they're doing when the customers are coming in to cancel. Product knowledge gap was something that we also identified, where the customer service representatives had major inconsistencies in how they answer some of the tech questions and how they troubleshoot some of the hardware issues, which came back to a training issue and the fact that there was many trainers who kind of took over the training in the last few years, which created very different level of knowledge and sort of skill set to the people on the customer support team. Also, no FCR practice was being done. FCR is first contact resolution, and because of the lag of the ticketing system and the fact that no one was using it, we didn't have any numbers or data on the fact that what is our first contact resolution. This is a metric that most companies use to identify how much of the issues of the customers are getting fixed on the first contact, and in this case they didn't have any measurement. That's number one. And number two, there wasn't a lot of culture and orientation and education on the importance of first contact resolution. Last but not least, we realized that there's staffing issues as well. There's a lot of complaints from both the support team and the customers of long wait times, which resulted in very high occupancy on the customer support team, but also very long wait times on the customer side. So that impacted the service levels, but also the customer satisfaction. So as you can see, this is something that we also identified and we put a solution for. On the technology side, we realized that there's a certain model of hardware that had repeated defects and repeated issues over and over again. Whether it's new, old, it keeps coming back with issues. And they did identify that before we came in, but there was no clear quantification on how much this is impacting the business and how much this is impacting cancellations. So one of the things we did is that we did a pretty thorough analysis on the impact of that model in specific on cancel rate, on customer satisfaction, and even on sales. And we put that in front of the decision makers to make a decision whether they either pull that product out of the shelf and just go back into R&D and try to develop it better, or just live with it as is, but endure the consequences of having a high cancel rate coming out of it and a low customer satisfaction. Also, customer UI was not, obviously there's no perfect customer UI, even Facebook has its bugs, but the UI had multiple issues in which the customer support team were not able to fix any of that because the UI issues were directly sent to the engineering team. So the customer will contact support, complain about how they're not able to set up extensions, to set up any of the things on their portal, and the customer support team has nothing to do except to escalate that to a backed up engineering team in which they barely handled the cases, and the service level was almost 1 week to get back to one of those customers. So that created a lot of cancellations and a lot of customer satisfaction issues. Last but not least, on the tech side is the installation issues. So the client contracted a third-party company to go in and do the installations themselves. So you have a tech person coming into your business and doing that setup for you. There was a lot of issues coming back from customers saying that those tech installments are not being done thoroughly, or the customers have a lot of questions after the installation is finished and the tech person is not able to answer them. So after the tech transaction is done, we find that the customers will be calling the customer support and just asking a lot of questions and troubleshooting a lot of things, while this all should have been handled by the tech person that was sent out. So this is obviously something that we also identified that is touching both the customer satisfaction but also the cancellation rate. So as you can see with the next few slides, and I'm going to leave a copy of that presentation in the description so you guys could take a look at it at your convenience, but you realize that we had a lot of proposed solution for that business and for that client in which they need to do to be able to improve that cancel rate. A lot of it has to do with people, some of it has to do with process, some of it has to do with technology. But once we establish that understanding and put the plan of action and start one by one completing those action points, those are the results after that. This is apples to apples on the cancel rate between September and March, this is before we started, and then from April to December, and those are the months in which we have started and worked with the client. And as you can see, both on infant cancel and non-infant cancel, there has been a big reduction. Now, as you can see, the non-infant didn't move by much because that was pretty much stable. If a customer stays with you for a year, they are most likely to continue paying you and continue the subscription, and you get a sort of a reduction on that by marginal actions. But the biggest impact here was on the non-infant customers. It was averaging almost a 35% rate, and we brought it down all the way to 12% by the end of the year. So that was a pretty impactful project in which we have shown that customer a significant improvement on their cancel rate. This is what we do at Kempire. We come in and we sit down with you. We identify what could be potential issues. We help you put a game plan. We manage that game plan for you if you need us to, and we guarantee you certain levels of improvement based on the plan that we put. That's really it from our end. Like I said, I will leave a copy on that presentation in the description so you guys can check it out. But this is also another customer that we've been able to show significant improvement for. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please contact us if you need anything, whether it's increased sales, improve customer experience, or transformative leadership. This is what Kempire does for a living, and this is what we have been doing over and over again with a great customer satisfaction. Thank you so much, and hope to talk to you soon. Goodbye.